What's up? So, I want to have a little chat. I have some things, like a trillion of them, swirling around my brain, and I want to just hang out and make like a word collage, if you will. And I've got my iced coffee, I've got my blanket, my computer memory has plenty of space. So I'm cozy. I hope you get cozy. And let's just hang out for a little bit and talk about some things that are absolutely relevant for me right now and possibly will ping something in you too, will possibly resonate. Anything that does resonate, I always take as like something that our higher self is kind of like already trying to get us to hear. And that when other people say words that, it does stir our ability to hear the higher guidance that's like already coming through. So, all of that to set the stage to say, these are my stories. You take them or leave them. None of it has anything to do with you unless you decide it does. And the first thing I want to talk about is resistance, okay? And how it's actually a great fucking thing. All right. So I think this is extra relevant. I'm recording this on May 13th, 2024, and whether you're into astrology or not, it doesn't really matter. Today, there is a very, not the most rare transit ever. I mean, but it does only happen once a year. And so there's an alignment happening in the energy today that is shaking things up, that is possibly unveiling or lighting up changes that maybe have even been years in the making. And it is exactly lined up today, but really like the whole rest of this week is kind of like anybody's guess as far as how it's all going to unfold. And resistance is coming into this conversation because that is our natural response to change. When we grow, when we change, when we evolve and expand, we resist it, period. Like, that is the human condition. And so I say that to reaffirm it for myself because I absolutely deal with resistance like on a daily basis. I'll say like I am someone who freaking loves keeping up with the expansion I create. And I'll say this, if you follow Abraham Hicks, you know that like anytime we experience contrast, or which is to say like we experience something that we don't want, we expand. Because as soon as you experience the thing that you don't want, your higher self, your inner being, knows exactly what you do want, which is the exact opposite of what you don't want, and becomes it. Like, that just happens automatically. And so every time we're in contrast, we expand, and either we allow ourselves to move into that expansion, to become and live that expansion, or we stay where we are and we leave that expansion for another day. But the less and less and less and less and less that we keep up with our expansion, the worse we feel. And so if you want to feel good, if you want to feel light and happy on a daily basis, and again, I'm reaffirming this for myself, but like if you want to feel good on a daily basis, your best bet is to keep up with your expansion. But what does that mean? That means resistance, like on the daily. And so if you've ever heard that quote, and you probably have, pain is inevitable, suffering is optional. Resistance is quite painful. It doesn't feel good. And that's why typically a lot of times I'll get into this, and I've seen a lot of other people get into this, where like typically we classify our resistance as a bad thing. Like, I need to hurry up and like do something to get out of this resistance. Like yesterday morning, perfect example, I woke up and almost right away fearful thoughts were right there for me. And that fear put this constriction in my body that does not feel good. It feels like things are urgent and I need to figure shit out, and like, oh, it's like taking it all so seriously. And like I've at this point, I'm very grateful to say, like, I've practiced feeling good enough, and this is why we practice feeling good, so that we can recognize when we don't feel good, and we have less tolerance for it. You know, like back in the day, like 10 years ago, when all I was depressed on a daily basis, pretty much like 95% of the time was just like depressed, hopeless, lethargic. Like that's what I'm working with. And it wasn't that it didn't suck, it was just that it was so normal. I was like used to it. Like, this is all there is, and like I'm kind of just here. And now I at least have this awareness of like just how good I can feel when I'm willing to shift my focus, when I'm willing to let go of whatever it is that I'm clinging to, kind of like Abraham says about like the cork floats. It's only when you like grab a hold of it and like shove it under the water that it'll even go under the water, let alone stay under the water. So like when you don't feel good, it's not natural. It's really not natural. But like resistance doesn't feel good. And so what to make of this, right? And this idea that like our mind, body, soul, like there's a lot out there in the spiritual community that talks about like the mind, body, soul connection, and I'm all for it. I think it's important that we understand all three of those things. The misleading part when you say mind, body, soul connection is that it sounds like you're going to get all three of those things on the same page and working together, and that is just very, very, very unlikely, because our soul wants us to keep up with the expansion that we're creating on a daily basis. Like that's the soul's joy, is to expand and then expand again and then expand some more and then expand again. And like that's what the soul wants. It's fun to live the next new thing. The mind's job and the body's job, like their focus, their agenda, has nothing to do with expansion, and actually really wants to like work against your expansion. Like the mind is a threat recognition tool. The mind is trying to recognize patterns that signal danger so that you can like use your body to run away. Like the mind is looking for danger, so then the amygdala triggers fight or flight, and now your body is responding / reacting to the threat that your mind picked up on. And so the mind is threat recognition, the body is protection. So to say like the mind, body, soul connection, like what the fuck are we even talking about? It's like what I want to know. It's like they're connected, but like actually what it feels like when you're really like, when you let the soul even come into the mix, which is to say you start to transcend pure protection mode, pure survival mode, which is like if you're mind body only, then you're just surviving. That's like all you're doing is like keep yourself breathing. That's all your mind and body care about, is if you're still alive, their job is done and they're happy. You may not feel happy because again, we do have a soul that is never going to stop wanting to live the next new thing that we've created, and the next new thing and the next new thing. And keep that in mind too, that like there is no shortage, there's no end to the next new thing. And so that's something, and we're really into the word collage here because like I keep jumping around, but I'm going to trust that this is what it needs to be. Like that's something that, you know, I've heard described even out of my own mouth, and definitely from others as well, of like the discomfort of this in-between place, and how I know I'm not the old thing. I don't know what the new thing is yet. And so I'm like in this in-between phase, like the bardo, or this liminal space. And what I want to say is like, from the vantage point of our soul, that's all life is. There is no other thing. There's only in between. There's only bardo. There's only becoming and becoming and becoming and becoming and becoming and becoming and becoming. If you've ever heard the phrase, there is no there. There's no destination. There's only the joy in the journey. And why is that? Because as soon as you get to the destination, there's another destination. There's another destination. There's another destination, because your soul is never done expanding. And so when you will transcend survival mode and you will move into thriving mode, which is what happens when your soul is allowed to be part of the mind body soul connection. And now we're like actively keeping up with our soul's expansion. It doesn't so much feel like a connection, like this harmonious little triangle. It feels more like part of you is going this way and part of you is going this way. Like imagine two trains that are heading in opposite directions down the same track, and your physical experience is like tied to both of them and standing in the middle, and then they both go off. Like what happens? Like it feels like being ripped apart sometimes. And this is what resistance is, okay? Like if you don't feel like you're being ripped apart, then you're not expanding. Like, and the ripping apart, like that's pretty drastic language. It's a pretty dramatic visual, right? And I think that's okay. I think I'm gonna let that stand because that's the way it feels a lot of the times. And the greater the expansion you're lining up with, the more intense the ripping apart feeling will be. Right? Like if you're lining up with a teeny tiny little expansion, then your resistance is going to be a teeny tiny little wave of resistance. Okay? And so, go with me here, like flip it around. Like you can almost see how big of an expansion you're lining up with by how big the wave of resistance is. Right? Like if you are mashed potatoes on the couch crying in a ball, you're fucking doing it, okay? Like you're killing it, honestly. Like, and that is so counterculture to what the societal machine wants you to believe. Like they want you to believe that like when you are smiling and happy and not a hair out of place and like that's winning. No, that's number one, it's pretend. But number two, like if you feel amazing, then congratulations, you're chilling in your comfort zone. Period. And like your comfort zone may be like an expanded version over what you were living 5 years ago. Don't get me wrong. Like 5 years ago, you might have been really freaked out in your current comfort zone. But like if you feel calm and at peace, then your soul's expansion really isn't joining the party. Like you know your soul's expansion is joining the party when you feel resistance. And again, pain is inevitable. Suffering is optional. So another way to say that is like when your soul's expansion is allowed to join the party, that means that it's gonna be painful. It's gonna be uncomfortable. Discomfort, part of the package of expansion and growth. Like you think about, you plant a seed in the ground and the seed wants to sprout, but before it can sprout, or part of the sprout is that the shell of the seed has to break open, right? And like our mind, body, soul, physical experience constantly forms a shell around, like we expanded and we're standing inside this level of our expansion, form a shell. To get to the next level of expansion, that shell has to break off. And now we grow again, form a shell. And now it has to break off. And now we grow again, form a shell. Like that's the comfort zone. And always this like pulling apart feeling, it's the difference between chilling in your comfort zone or following your soul's expansion. And so I want to just wrap every bit of that around any resistance you ever feel. And I'm talking like the thoughts, like the shitty committee in your head. I'm talking about like body triggers where like so-and-so said something and I like literally felt like I was gonna throw up, or I just instantly like snapped back and like, yeah, I like karate chopped them with my words, like guilty. Yeah, like any of that, any of those like triggers coming up, any of those physical reactions that make you feel sick, any of that like really nasty negative self-talk that'll get going in your brain. This is the resistance I'm talking about. And what does it signal? It signals that you're growing, because the mind body, the protection mechanism, doesn't need to torment you like that if you're chilling in your comfort zone. Okay? So what I want for myself, and for anybody else who wants to go there too, is like to change how you see the resistance. And instead of pushing against it, like, oh, I gotta hurry up and shift out of this, like, which is exactly how I felt yesterday morning when I woke up with the fearful thoughts. Like, instead of, I need to end this, be like, holy shit, this is the green light that says, like, I am tiptoeing past my comfort zone. Like, right here, right now, these are the thoughts that let me know that I am no longer in comfort zoneville, period. Right? Like, when you're chilling, zoned out for days or weeks or months at a time, again, guilty as charged, like watching Netflix for watching the season of whatever for the 14th time, like, when that's all you're doing, you're just like numbed out, like, again, like chilling in your comfort zone. Like, there's no physical resistance to speak of. It's when you start thinking like, oh, I'm gonna make a video about this, or I'm gonna write that book that I've been thinking about, or I'm gonna call so and so and let them know, like, have this difficult conversation. Like, that's when the resistance has to come up, because our mind and body want to protect us. And anything that is unfamiliar or unknown, that equals not safe, right? So like, as far as the mind recognizing patterns that signal danger, growth is dangerous to our mind and body. Change is dangerous to our mind and body. Change and growth are also part of everything our soul wants from us. So the mind-body-soul connection, what does that mean? It means that if you've got your soul connected to your mind and body, expect to be dealing with resistance on a daily basis, right? So like, what is the skill set? Love skills, absolutely. Like, skills are things you can learn and practice and get better at, okay? Like muscles that we build over time through deliberate focus and action and attention. So what is the skill set of soul expansion? And which is also to say, like I was describing earlier, it's like when you live contrast, your inner being automatically knows what you want, automatically becomes it, and is it. So the soul is expanding automatically. We as the human get to allow ourselves to go with that expansion or not. And so a more accurate way to say, rather than the skill set of soul expansion, the skill set of keeping up with your soul's expansion is the skill set of dealing in resistance, of holding discomfort, of facing fears. Okay? And this is like one of those things that I am just now connecting within myself, is like, I've known for a long time, like since my early 20s, maybe even before that. Yeah, definitely before that. Like, my public speaking brought this out of me too. It's like, the scarier something is, the more I need to do it. Like, I just have known that like almost my whole life. And the more it scares me, the more I want to do it. I don't know why. That just feels like it's hardwired into my being. And now I see why. Because keeping up with your soul's expansion is going to terrify the shit out of you, right? And if you're keeping up with a little bitty piece of your soul's expansion, then you're going to have a little bitty piece of fear. If you're going into a gigantic piece of your soul's expansion, you're going to have a gigantic wave of fear on your hands. Like, that's just how it works. And so I have learned that fear is a great sign. Fear is a great sign. Walk into the fear. Right? Like, don't avoid it. Don't shut it down. Don't turn it off. Don't numb it back out, because that's showing you, that's like a lit up, lighted path towards the expansion that your soul has already accomplished. Okay? That was really good. This is fun. So this part of this is coming out of the Badass Baby collage, okay? I posted a picture of this yesterday on my YouTube channel and my Instagram, and you can also, I'll put it on the screen here so you can see it if you haven't seen it yet. And you can just appreciate the Badass Baby collage. This collage, like when I look at it, like I have it right here. When I look at it, like it gives me so much courage. It also scares the shit out of me. Okay? And again, like I've said about everything I've said so far, like I take that as a really good sign of like, this is a path forward towards lining up with even more of my soul's expansion. And for those of you who may not be familiar with intuitive collage, my friend Laura, she's been on the channel once. She and her business partner host intuitive collage workshops and extended journeys. And yesterday, I was so blessed to get to sit in a private intuitive collage session with Laura, where we spent like 2 hours digesting and processing and unpacking the Badass Baby collage, and so much yumminess came through in that session. I highly recommend, if you are interested at all, I'll put the website for Laura's workshop. She has one coming up here in like 2 weeks maybe, if you're interested. But with intuitive collage, it's like you get a couple magazines and you flip through them and you just start cutting out like the pieces that, ooh, that's pretty. Ooh, I like that. I like pickles. Oh, tell your story. Yeah, that's cool. Volunteers needed. That reminds me of this thing. Yeah, I'm going to cut that out. Like you just start cutting out the pieces that look interesting to you. And once you have like the pieces, like you feel like you're like, yeah, I think I'm good, like cut out enough stuff here, then you take a piece of paper and start arranging your pieces on your piece of paper so that you can like put together your collage, get out a glue stick or not. I mean, I have one over here that's like not even glued down. Like glue it down, and then you get to like sit back and look at your collage. And part of the process that Laura takes you through is the journal questions afterwards. Like the intuitive collage, the intuitive part of the process means like you're not sitting there like, I think I'll make a collage about this, or like this baby with the face is going to be the focal point of my collage and I need to go find a bunch of stuff to like put around the baby to like make it make sense. Like no, like you're literally like one piece at a time. Like I'm drawn to this. Ooh, fireworks. I like fireworks. Like on and on and on. Like just intuitively picking out the pieces. And when you put it together at the end and then you go through the journal questions, one of the ones that she asks you is like, what is this collage inviting you to explore or initiate? And when I look at this collage, what it wants me to explore and initiate is deepening even further into the authenticity of my being. That's what this collage wants for me. It's like it's go time. Like we talked about the green scarf on the adult lady's wrist. We talked about like the little colorful orbs on the left that are like traffic lights. And that's actually a piece that I do want to tell, because she did an amazing grounding for me at the beginning, where like grounding meditation, where she like talked me through a visualization, and she like gets me in my heart space, which is like a funny story for another day. And then you're in your heart space and there's this lake and there's the island out there in the middle of the lake, and you go out to the island and there's somebody waiting for you and they have a present for you and they give you a present. And the person waiting for me on the island was my inner child. And the present they gave me was a seashell. And I have a seashell here that was the one that I pictured. And when my inner child gave me this, she said, now put this on your left ear and use it to listen to me. Don't listen to the world outside yourself. Only listen to me. And granted, I have one ear open to like pay attention and like keep myself safe and alive and like listen to the world. Like that's not a bad thing always. But it also reminded me of like the importance of not trying to impress anybody outside of myself, right? Like that is so not the fucking point. Our inner child, our higher self, our soul that made the intention to do the most brave thing anybody ever does and be born onto this physical plane, like that is the version of the being that I want to impress. Not you, not Bob and Sally and George and Jim. Like, couldn't give a shit less, except sometimes I do. Okay, like I'm human, I care. But that's what this collage is inviting me to explore, is like, what would it look like to deepen even further into expressing from a fully authentic place? What would that mean? What would it look like? How would you do it? On and on and on. And that invitation, I'm going to go back full circle to the top of this conversation. It scares me, right? Like, it's like, I don't want to take the guardrails off because like those guardrails are keeping me safe. And like, to a certain extent, like I need not worry because we are the arbiter of our own safety, and we will always get to like move into our expansion at a rate and pace that we can handle. But I do want to be really clear about that, that like that invitation of like get more authentic, you know, like that scares me. It's scary. And I know from, you know, decades worth of living like this, that the scarier it is, the more you need to do it. So like, what is that for you? What is that thing that like, you know, when people are asked like, what is it that you want your life to be, a very, 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 very common response is, I don't even know. I don't know. And that's bullshit, okay? Because it's not that we don't know, it's that we're scared of what the real answer is, okay? The mind believing that I don't know is a form of protection, right? Because if you did know, then you would know how to get there. You would know the steps. Like, you want to be a professional public speaker, you need to get a microphone and you need to start talking. You need to start writing speeches or giving speeches or going into situations where you're going to get to practice your speaking skills. Like, and every bit of that lining up with your soul's expansion is terrifying to your body because it's all unfamiliar. And if you believe you don't know, then you don't have to do any of it. And so now you're not scared anymore. And it's easier to believe that you don't know than to admit that you do know, and that now you need to like start actually moving in that direction. So the transit that's happening today, what's being lit up and illuminated for us as far as like, what is your soul's mission on this planet? Like, what was the divine authenticity that you looked down at planet Earth before you came here and you thought, you know, there's not enough of this. There needs to be more of this. And you know what? I believe that strongly enough that I'm going to bring it in. I'm going to do the most brave thing that anybody can ever do, and I'm going to be born. Okay? I'm going to endure a childhood, which is to say trauma, because I want to bring this onto the planet. And like, what is that? And don't give me I don't know. If you did know, what is it? You know? And like, let yourself see it and let yourself realize that like, if it scares you, you're right on track. And if it scares you, you don't have to do it today, but let yourself know it. Let yourself take the step of leaving behind I don't know. Say out loud, I want this. Fill in the blank, whatever it is that you want, and feel how your body responds. Feel how your body like instantly constricts, like, oh God, or like feel how maybe you won't even let yourself say it out loud. It's like not even safe enough to claim it out loud. We can't live anything we're not willing to claim. And so overcoming the I don't know is kind of like step number one. And I also want to talk about like, that kind of goes into this piece of like how to hear your guidance like how to hear your higher self or your soul's expansion, like to even know what that is, like when you believe that you don't know. Number one, like basically, if you've ever heard this quote, is one of my favorites. If you believe you can, you're right. And if you believe you can't, you're right. So if you believe that you don't know, there's no room for your higher self, for your inner guidance, for your intuition to speak to you, because you don't know and you're right. A softening step might be, I don't know yet. I wish I knew. Try saying that out loud. I wish I knew, because I'll bet that's scary. I'll bet it's scary to even admit, I wish I knew. I bet it's scary to turn inward in your body and say, I invite you to show me. You can at any time. And like, I deal in resistance as a growth and expansion expert. I deal in resistance. Like, growth and expansion expert, basically another way to say I'm a fear expert. Okay? Because I have that, I don't know, panic all the time. And again, like, how do you get good at going with your soul's expansion? You get good at knowing when your mind says, I don't know, it's trying to protect you. And you need to let go of that belief. You need to soften it somehow. You need to open up to a different belief. I don't know yet, but I'm going to know. I want to know. I'm willing to know. Right? I'm willing to sit in the open space of I don't know yet and see what will come up. Breathe in. Breathe out. I'm willing to sit in the discomfort of I don't know yet. I don't know yet. I haven't been shown yet, but I think they're going to show me soon. They being my inner guidance, my higher self, my ancestors, my spiritual support. I think I'm going to be shown soon. Right? That sounds so fucking different and feels so different in your body than I don't know. Right? Feel how it closes you off from knowing to believe that you don't know. So how to hear your guidance is that you need to believe that you can. You need to believe that just because you don't know right now doesn't mean that split second from now you're not going to know. Right? While you're saying, I don't know, 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 I don't know. You're broadcasting that all over the guidance that's coming in all the freaking time. Right? Like, it's all happening. It's all coming to you all the time. But our beliefs will actively put up walls where we are not able to receive, because if you believe that you don't know, then you're right. And if you believe that you just don't know yet and that you might know a second from now, then you're right. Period. Like, what we believe is the truth for us. And that's why shifting your beliefs and opening up space within yourself that it's possible, right? Like, it's possible to know. That's another way to soften that I don't know, is like to stop saying I don't know and instead be like, it's possible to know. I believe it's possible to know this. I believe it's possible to be shown this. Right? That's a huge, spacious step forward beyond I don't know. And so what I want to leave you with is this, and that is lighten the fuck up. Okay? It's not that serious. It's really not. Why did we come here? We came here to have fun. Okay? Nobody's saving anybody. Nobody's saving the planet. The planet is fine. All right? Maybe it becomes an environment that's not hospitable to humans, but who says that the human race is supposed to continue forever? Who decided that? Right? Like, that's very much dealing in God's business, and our job is to have fun. Our soul is expanding because it's fun. It's fun to live the next new thing and 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 the next new thing. We did not come here to control. We did not come here to dictate outcomes that must be fulfilled. We did not come here for a pile of things. We did not come here to pretend to be perfect. We came here to have fun. Okay, so lighten up. It's not that serious. And ask yourself maybe 27 times a day, at least once every news segment, right? You get in your car, that's a new segment. You show up at the grocery store, that's a new segment. You put your groceries in the car and you come home, that's a new segment. You get home and you're unpacking your groceries, that's a new segment. Ask yourself every single segment, how can I make this 10% more fun for me? Let that be your focus, because that's all your soul is wanting with like expanding and then you keeping up with the expansion, is that's fun. Moving into the next new thing is fun. Moving into the thing after that is fun. And so that's why it's never over, because there's always more fun to have. So how could I make this more fun? Let that be your guiding question through your day. And I would love to hear from you in the comments down below. I also will share with you that I am hosting a 4-week mini program called the Mind Machine that starts on May 24th. And I put a link in the description box if you want to head over to my website and check that out. I also put a link for my breakthrough coaching packages and sacred circles and all the things that I offer. I am holding open spaces on the regular for individuals, for groups. It is my joy, right? Like, this is what's fun for me. I was playing teacher with my brothers when I was 5 years old. They fucking hated it. I loved every minute of it, okay? So to be back here where it's my work, it's my play, to get to teach, to get to share, to get to use my voice and make an impact in the lives of other people, to use my voice and open up possibilities that weren't there before in the lives of other people. Like, this is my play. This is how I make my day more fun. And you better believe, if you think this is not true, then you don't know anything about evolving and like keeping up with your soul's expansion. But like, if you think I wasn't scared to make this video, then you're wrong. Okay? Like, I at the beginning of this video, I was like, these are the things I want to say. That would be so fun to get to talk about these things. And then I was like, oh, but I'm kind of tired and I don't really have that much time and I have this thing. And like, dude, like, here I am, like, want to live out my expansion, and the resistance comes. And so how do you actually live out your expansion? You got to tell the resistance, I hear you, and I'm going to face the fear. I'm going to face the fear that maybe this, maybe this, maybe this, maybe it's just fun. Okay? How can I make this 10% more fun? Let that be the guiding question of your day. And share with me down below, how'd this video land? What was it like for you to hang out with me for this little bit of time? Anywho, I'll see you soon. I hope you'll take really good care of the precious one that you are, and so will I.